Prithvi Shantirantariksha Shantir Dyaus Shantir Disha Shantiravantara Disha Shantiragni Shantir Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shantir Nakshatrani Shantirapah Shantiroshadaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashva Shantir Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shantir Shantireva Shanti Shantirme Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu, sarvas sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Te Namam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. Today we begin with chapter 15. This is called Purushottama Yoga, Yoga of Purushottama. Purushottama means the Supreme Person, the Supreme Being. This begins with an imagery that is very popular in Vedantic literature. In the earlier chapter we saw that in order to attain enlightenment, in order to attain God, we can either do it through bhakti, what was described in the earlier chapter as unswerving devotion, which meaning that God becomes our topmost priority. We'll have other priorities in life, of course, but the highest priority will be God. That everything becomes relevant in and through God, or through the path of knowledge. Either way, what is most important is that we cannot attain God unless and until we are able to remove from the path all obstacles, all obstructions. And in order to, these obstructions or obstacles are what detract our attention. So we need a strong sense of detachment, that which draws our attention away from the ideal. If I can detach myself from it, then I will remain focused. It's a little bit like if you are to study for an exam, let's say, and there is a baseball game going on or some interesting movie is going on. And if you love baseball or you love that movie, then it will be very difficult for you to concentrate on your studies. At that time, you really need a strong detachment and say, I'm going to switch off the television in order for me to focus. Only then can you do it. So similarly, even when we recognize the importance of attaining the spiritual ideal, merely recognizing the importance itself is not enough. We need also that strong spirit of detachment to brush aside all the distractions that come in the way. It's like you are driving someplace, and then of course we know you're going on a long drive. There are several exits which come, but they are not the exits you need to take because your destination is far away. But if at every exit, and you'll find sometimes the boards, there is not just where there is gas stations available, but there are some resting places or some theme parks or some things like that are advertised, and you say, let me just take this exit and see what's there. And of course, you can go and see that exit, but then of course, as long as you are engaged with those things at the exit, your of course journey has stopped. Now that's what happens in our spiritual life as well. Even when we recognize the importance of reaching the goal, what do we do when we see these several exits on the way? So we then need to have this strong sense of detachment and say, yes, I see the exit, but that's not my exit. I need to go towards my destination. Now, in order to emphasize that importance of detachment and to reach that supreme being, this chapter begins. It begins with a very popular analogy in Vedanta tradition about a tree, an upside down tree. We all of us have seen trees, but not very upside down trees. So this is the analogy given in the first few verses. So let's read the first verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhva Moola Madhashakham Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavit. The Blessed Lord said, they speak of the immutable Ashwatha tree with its root above and branches below, whose leaves are the Vedas. He who knows it is a knower of the Vedas. So here is an image given of a tree. It's called the Ashwatha tree. Sometimes it's similar, probably I do not know whether it's identical. There is one kind of a tree in India, it's called the people tree. This could be something similar. The term Ashwatha in Sanskrit means this. Shva in Sanskrit, Shvaha means tomorrow. Tha stands for stha. It's like swastha. So Ashwatha, that tha is for stha. So that which is there tomorrow, shvatha. The a prefix means that which is not there tomorrow. In other words, anything whose existence you cannot guarantee, that today it's there, I cannot guarantee it will be there tomorrow. That is the literal meaning of the term Ashwatha. So this tree is called Ashwatha, meaning that it's perishable. It's not permanent. It's not eternal. And we know, of course, no tree is eternal. Every tree, you plant a seed, a branch comes out, a plant comes up, eventually becomes a tree. But every tree has a lifetime. Eventually the tree will die. But this tree is exactly similar. And that is why the term Ashwatha means it's perishable. And yet, it's immutable. How can that which is perishable be also immutable? Sometimes the example given is that of a river. Is a river permanent or not? Now we are just on the bank of the river Charles here. And it just looks like the Charles has been here now for a long time. Now when we say the river has been here for a long time, what exactly does the river mean? Who exactly is the river? Because if you think about the water is continuously being emptied into the ocean. That's why it is said no person enters into the same river twice. You enter into the river, and after 5 minutes you enter into it. That water is completely different from the water earlier. So, and yet we have kind of an illusion that the Charles has been here for a long time. At the same time, every minute, the water that is now wasn't there yesterday, wasn't there day before yesterday, wasn't there 10 years ago. So, there is one kind of eternality, and that's called in Sanskrit pravaha nityatvam. That means as a stream, it exists at the stream is there all the time, but the water itself is not constant. In some sense, you can say that about a tree as well. So you plant a seed and a tree comes up, and after some time the tree dies. But before dying, the tree has produced fruits, and the fruits have yielded seeds, and from those seeds another tree can come. And so the tree-ness of the tree or its children and grandchildren will still survive, because it starts from a seed, it produces more seeds, and that seeds will again, maybe you can plant the seed in the same place and another tree will come at the same place. So some form the tree continues and yet the tree isn't there. Think about family tree, for instance. Now, we all can trace our family lineage, our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents. So a family has been around for a long time, for centuries maybe. And yet, the members of the family keep on changing. So in some sense, the family is eternal, relatively speaking, but the people, members of the family, are changing in every generation. So that is what is meant by the tree, Ashwatha tree, which is perishable and yet immutable, with its root above. Now, the trees that we are aware of obviously has its root below. But this tree is upside down because the tree emerges from the root. The root is the source. The root is from where the tree comes up. Now this tree, really describing the tree of the world, of this universe, of all creation. Now this tree has its root above, the source from which this tree comes. And that above is the Lord, is God. And branches below. So everything else that we see, all other beings, all kinds of creatures, all kinds of objects are the branches of this tree, whose leaves are the Vedas. Now, why are the leaves the Vedas? What do the leaves do? Among the things that the leaves do is clearly bring nourishment to the tree. We know, of course, the simple process of the chlorophyll and is absorbing the breaking down of the carbon dioxide and using the carbon, and the science behind it. How a tree needs its leaves for sustenance. The trees protect the leaves protect the tree and help it to grow. And sometimes we see if a tree loses all its leaves and there is no sign of any leaves coming, we know it's about to die. So a tree needs its leaves to live. And the Vedas, which have in them teaching about what are our duties, what is dharma, what is adharma, what are the kind of things we need to do, what are the kind of things we should not do. So from the Vedas, we understand what should be done, what should not be done. And by doing those things, by doing actions, actions will lead to the result. Karma will lead to karma phala, the results of action. And in the results of actions, then that we experience through joy and sorrow in life, that is what perpetuates creation. So the way this tree is sustained by all its living creatures doing karma, experiencing the results of karma, and perpetuating the creation. And that's how this tree is protected by the leaves. And that's why he says, whose leaves are the Vedas. He who knows it means who knows the tree in its totality. Right now, we are not really seeing the tree itself. We're just seeing one small tiny part of it. How often when we encounter the world, are we able to step back and understand this world, that this world it's a huge tree and its source is God? We are not always aware of it. So one who is always aware of this world, aware that the source of this world is God, such a person is called the knower of the Vedas. Sometime you will remember that, think about it this way. But I think before I say that, let's read the second verse, then it will be clearer. Adhaschordhvam prasritastasya shakha guna pravriddha vishaya pravalaha adhascha mulanyanu karmanubandhini manushya loke Its branches, nurtured by the gunas, spread below and above. Its shoots are the sense objects, and its rootlings are stretched below, producing actions in the world of men. So, more details are added about the imagery. The branches of the trees spread below and above. The branches which are below are generally said to be those objects and creatures we consider as less evolved. So perhaps we might include animals and other lower creatures, if you like. And the branches above are those which we consider as evolved beings. By evolved beings would mean people who have gone to higher spheres. So people who go to different kinds of heavens. So after death, those we know from our understanding of life as it is that when people do good deeds, after death they reap good results. So they go to different swargas or heavens, described in the Gita as a form of different lokas, Brahmalok, Satyalok and all of that. So these are higher celestial spheres. And then people who lead evil lives suffer in other terrible worlds. And so the above and below really refers to that. So this entire tree of creation, the branches above are those who are in a good place, if you like, and the branches below are those creatures who are in not so good place. Nurtured by the gunas, because as we have seen in the earlier chapters, all material universe is controlled by the guna, sattva, rajas, tamas. All the actions that we do, all the thoughts that we think, all the hopes, desires, ambitions that we have are because of this play of the gunas in our own lives. And it is these gunas that control all activity. And that is why this tree of creation is nurtured by the gunas. Its shoots are the sense objects, because it is the sense objects that either attract us or repel us. And it is this attraction or repulsion, or liking or disliking something, which prompts us to take some action about it. Those things that we like, we want to grasp them, we want them. Those things which we dislike, we want to run away from them, we want to avoid them. So either way, our likes and dislikes force us to do actions. And those actions then become the source of strengthening the tree. And that's why they are called, its shoots are the sense objects, because it's these secondary shoots which strengthen the tree, which keep the tree growing, which helps in the growth of the tree. And its rootlings are stretched below, producing actions in the world of men. Now, the way it is described in the Gita and other books is that sometimes they speak about 3 levels of creation. And this is kind of a very broad category. And that is, as I said, the upper level is where all the good things happen, different kinds of heavens, if you like. The lower level are different kinds of hells, if you like. And middle is where we are. So this world has elements of both. It's heavenly and hellish at the same time. So when things are good in life right now, we just think like, oh, this is so good, it's heavenly. People sometimes say, oh, just I feel I'm in heaven. And then sometimes when things are not so good, our present life itself can become hellish. So, but it's a combination. So in this human experience, we have both joy and sorrow. But in the higher heavens, at least the popular idea is heavens is just joy. Hell is simply pain. The middle is both. Now it's in the middle that we can do actions, and actions yield to results. And so it is said that those who are in heaven don't do any fresh actions. They just, it's like think about it this way, that after retirement, let's say, after retirement, you just have your good severance package or a pension. You don't have to do any work. You just enjoy the fruits of your savings. You don't do any work. Or if someone does something terrible, then they're just put in a high security prison. Then you can't do any job there either. You just have to suffer there. So either when you're suffering extremely, you don't do any work. You are having your pension, you have worked hard, you don't do any work. It's only in the middle that we work. It's more or less a similar kind of analogy. That this is the place, that's why sometimes it's called karma kshetra. This is the place to work. And depending on how we work and what work we do, then we will decide whether we go up or we go down. And up and down, there is no work there. We just experience the results of karma. So sometimes therefore the heavens and hells are described as bhoga bhumi. That is just experiencing the results of our karma there. And this is called karma bhumi. Here is where we do both. We work and we also experience the results. And that is what is meant by producing actions in the world of men. Now men here means in the sense of human beings, not just men as opposed to women. So these two verses then give us very briefly this entire creation with the analogy, explained with the analogy of a tree, uprooted tree whose main root is above the Lord, and the branches, leaves and secondary shoots is entire creation. The earlier first verse conclude by saying, he who knows it is a knower of the Vedas. The question is, do we know the tree? Are we aware of the tree fully? Sometimes we will see that we might know only a small part of the tree. Even let's just look at our family tree. Traditionally in India, they used to say that every person was expected to know at least the names of 7 generations above. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents. So I don't think many people would be able to say that today. In fact, traditionally, in many parts of India, when they go to a temple or when they bow down before a holy person, sometimes you will see they just hold their hand this way and they are supposed to repeat the names of their 7 generations above. So the idea is this: we are not simply dropped out of nowhere, that we have a history behind us. So when we do something, the thing is, the times in which we live have become so individualistic that we often don't remember that every one of us is a representative. We are not just an individual. So when you go to a temple, most of us might think, well, I'm going to a temple and praying. But who are you? You wouldn't be here if your parents were not there. Your parents wouldn't be here if their parents were not there. So your very existence right now is because of these people who were there before you. So when you go to a temple or when you bow down before someone, you're doing it not just for yourself. You are a representative of all these, at least you're a representative of really, God knows, millions of generations before you. But at least, the tradition was at least 7 generations earlier. And so the idea was, you go and you bow down and you mentally repeat the names of your 7 forefathers and then bow down. So the benefit you get from your practice is not just for yourself. Whatever good thing you do, at least the previous 7 generations, you share the benefit with them. That's the idea. And we might say, well, why should I share it with them? I'm the one who is doing it. Remember, the 7 generations that are going to come after you, whatever good they do, you are going to get a benefit of that as well. I mean, that's essentially the whole point about, in some ways, the social security that you have. The thing is, you keep on putting money into social security. And you might say, well, I'm not getting the benefit right now. Well, you are not getting it right now. What money you are putting into the system, other people are getting benefit who are now eligible for the social security. But when you get old and when you become eligible, there will be the next generation will be putting money into the system which you will use. Same thing with regard with all kinds of insurance also. Sometimes your health may be fine and you say, well, why should I pay health insurance? The idea is this: you are putting money into it, which presently those who need money for their treatment, your money is being utilized for theirs. But when you fall sick, there'll be other people putting money into the system. And this is how it occurs in daily life. The apples and mangoes that you buy or go to a farm and pluck, you haven't planted those trees. You say, but someone has planted those trees, and maybe the person who planted those trees may never have tasted those mangoes, but you are getting the benefit. So what you do now, so we cannot always think in terms of what am I going to get out of it, because we are already getting a lot out of things for which we have not done anything. And therefore what we do now, our children, our grandchildren will be benefited from that. And that is why we see ourselves as the representatives. Swami Brahmananda once said that if there is one person in the family who prays regularly, who does japa regularly, who meditates regularly, the entire family gets the benefit of that practice. So don't again think that, because sometimes I have heard this criticism, people saying, oh, this spiritual practice, that's so selfish. You're just thinking about your own freedom. No, that's not true. If there is one person, the whole family gets a benefit. So it's good for us to remember that even when whatever good thing you do, whatever prayer, worship, meditation, service that you do, you get the benefit, of course, but you also share it with others, because you have been benefited by things because of the good that your parents and others in the family have done. So that's what relationships mean. It's not just about everyone thinking about their own selves. It's about thinking about a larger whole. And that's what this analogy of tree helps us to do. You cannot, for instance now, when you give water to a tree, the roots cannot say, I'm just going to keep all the water to myself. Well, you're not watering the whole tree with all the branches everywhere. So the water that you put in one place, the entire tree gets the benefit of that. So that's the idea. And think about it this way. See, as we grow older, sometimes even if you think about the family beginning with you, sometimes you will see that it's already become a fairly big tree. Or think about your parents. Or sometimes what happens is this. Just say, let's begin with the parents. So the parents, and then you have your siblings, your brothers, sisters, then you're all kind of a nicely close family unit. Then the children grow up, and then eventually the children have their own families. And everybody, the olden system of having this one big house with all joint families staying together, that's already kind of things of the past. So as children grow up, everyone has their families, people move, go to different places, and now the world has become so small, mobility is so easy, people travel so fast. So those siblings who grew up together are now spread, sometimes in different parts of the world. And then they have their children. Then as they grow older, then their children get married. And gradually time will come, even during our own lifetime, that you might have nieces and nephews and grandchildren whom you may see maybe once in a year or maybe once in 5 years. Maybe there may be some nephews and nieces you may not have seen at all, or may have met them only once after 10 or 15 years. So even this little tree has already become so big and wide, and we do not have knowledge about this own little tree of our own, or the family tree. And not everyone in that family may know this one, your parents, who actually could be seen as the root of this tree, if at all, if you begin it with from your parents. Now think about this whole tree of the entire creation. If this small tree, so think about a small company that you start. Let's say you start a company. In the beginning, you and your partner, and then there are, just say you have 2 employees. And then gradually the company expands, and then eventually you have, say, 10,000 employees. And there are all these different departments, and then maybe you are the CEO. Not every employee of your company would even ever get a chance to meet you. And if you become a multinational with say, several 100,000 or several 100,000 employees, others may have just heard of your name as the CEO of the company. They may never have even seen you. And there may be some who may not even know who the head of the company is, because they are doing their own little job. If that's so true about these little things, but compared to this entire tree of creation, all of these things are just small little specks on the tree of creation. And therefore we see that the root of this tree of creation is God. And in order for us to even contemplate or think about God, we'll have to then just step back and look at this tree. As long as the tree is alive, it'll grow. And the more it grows, the more intricate its branches are going to be. And the more intricate it gets, the more difficult it's going to be to find the root. Because you will be there in some tiny corner of this ever-growing tree. So the only way for us to reach God would be to cut this tree. Because unless and until you cut it from with its roots, so to speak, you will never be able to go, because this is what is obstructing the view that we have about the infinite being. So that's the image that is provided here. And then, of course, the next 2 verses, 3 and 4, will then tell us how and why this tree needs to be cut. But before we go to that, you have any thoughts, ideas, questions? About this tree, this imagery comes in the Upanishads. So a lot of times in the Gita, the ideas given are not just dropped out of nowhere. Swami Vivekananda referred to the Gita as the best summary of the Upanishadic teaching. And so many of in fact in the 2nd chapter, many of the verses, word for word, almost reflect some of the Upanishadic verses. So this particular imagery of the tree comes in the Kathopanishad. Urdhva mula avakshakaha. And the same thing is described in slightly different words in this 15th chapter.
You mentioned the more the tree grows, the more intricate its branches become. How can we apply this to everyday life and to our spiritual life?
How can you?
Yes.
How can you say that again?
How can we apply the branches? How can you make an analogy to everyday life for us?
Well, the thing is this, the more, that's why it is said, you see, it shoots at the sense objects. So the more we get entangled in this thing, when you look at the sense objects and our own mental impressions, the more we'll interact with the tree, the more we will do actions. The more actions we do, the more there'll be fruits of actions. So this tree is laden with more fruits. The more fruits, more the seeds. More the seeds, more potentially more trees. So that's how it is growing.
So yeah, now it's a little confusing since, as I understand, the tree represents the Supreme Spirit, right?
Not the tree.
No, the tree.
The root, the source. The source.
The source. And if I have this image of upside down tree, so the roots are going sort of upwards. So, but the tree itself represents the spiritual seeker, or like what's the exact?
The tree is this creation.
The creation. Okay.
So just like the root is one, and the branches, etc., they are like many. So from that one source, from the root, this multi-branched, multifarious thing has emerged.
So it's like basically the universal spirit and, the individual souls.
The universal spirit is the source,
yes,
from which the material universe
has come.
Universe. Yeah.
And where's the human being in that picture?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
But this is the material universe, and you are. The thing is this. That's actually a very profound question. The question is, who is a human being? And so then we go back to what we have said before is, when I say, I'm a human being, but then who am I really? What is it in me that makes me a human being? How do we distinguish a human being and a dog and a tree? Well, all the three, to our eyes, are material entities. So clearly, first of all, it's a human shape. So first of all, it's the human body. The spirit inside a human body is called a human being. The spirit inside a dog body is called a dog. The spirit in a tree is called a tree. So the material covering of all these three is a part of the tree. The spirit inside is not technically a part of the tree, but because the spirit has forgotten that I am the spirit, it's there in the tree. But the spirit really is really the root, but the root which has forgotten it's a root.
So, and basically cutting the tree is a non-attachment to all this material and, the human body, etc.
Well, the moment you cut the tree, the entire creation goes. Then there's nothing to do. You just go to the source.
To the source. I see. All right. It's a very deep and profound picture.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just adding to what she asked. So if the roots are the source, and if you cut the tree, then you have no connection with the roots. So how do you reach what happens to the roots then?
No, that's all that remains. By roots is meant the roots are just the physical thing. By root is meant the source. So when the roots are cut, the tree goes, you go to the source.
Okay.
Because
so in a way you're entangled, like we are entangled in the branches and then we cut the tree. I mean, I'm just trying to picture it.
So essentially, So, sometimes you can't stretch the imagery beyond a certain point. So essentially what is meant is once you cut the tree, it's not that you are going to the source, although that we might speak that way. Once the tree is cut, you will know that you are the source. Right now, what makes us feel that we are a part of the tree is because I feel this is me. My body and mind are parts of the tree. As long as I feel that I am this body and mind, I feel to be a part of the tree. But cutting the tree really means cutting my attachment to my own body and mind. When my own body and mind attachment goes away, then I know I am the spirit. And when I know I'm the spirit, that's what the source is. And once I'm at the source, the tree automatically goes away. That's the idea.
Yeah. Swami, thank you so much for this speaking about 7 generations. Before, after, I'm just thinking about this topic inside. So it just revived in me obligations and whatever I just missing. Like it's so just thank you because it's too much to speak. Okay. Thank you so much. It's very rich understanding.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. Any questions online? No? Okay. Yeah, here.
Thank you, Swamiji. The that concept of sort of, dedicating your spiritual activities and your sadhana and your prayers to the generations that might have preceded you, that's a very profound one, because, as you said, we could not exist today but for them. But is that a burden that we need to carry if, in fact, the goal is to cut the tree off completely and detach ourselves from our material, attachments? And if that can accomplish the goal of merging with the divine, then it seems to me that that would be sort of a preliminary practice, which is to thank our ancestors and so on. But in fact, the real work needs to be done to detach ourselves from, the material attractions.
I don't think the two are contradictory. In fact, I think the more the thing is this, we speak about detachment. So what does detachment mean? So we say, I'm detaching myself from my family. But who is really... The thing is, what happens sometimes is we get so self-obsessed. So we are then become... It's not really a spiritual detachment. I just become so self-centered. That's why the gratitude as a virtue, in Sanskrit they call kritajñata. It's something that removes from my heart this self-centeredness, self-obsession. So thinking about one's family, one's ancestors, etc., takes my mind away from being limited to only this me. And actually it's very helpful. And simple thing is, the more we think about the welfare of others, the less we will be obsessed with ourselves. And so I think that praying for others is probably the best way to pray for oneself. I think so. Yeah.
Swamiji, if root is the source and we are the tree, who is creating this tree? Because it's attached with the root. The tree is attached with the tree.
Well, the correct answer is you have created the tree. And therefore you can
destroy
it. Because if someone else has created it, then you really cannot destroy it.
So knowledge is the destroyer and ignorance is the tree?
Yeah, think about it this way. So when I go to sleep, I'm one person and I create this dream world. So the dream world that I create is a tree of dream creation, and I am the source. My ignorance is really the source. My ignorance provides the material for the dream world. And because I create my dream world, only I can destroy it by waking up. So people in my dream cannot end that dream because it's my dream. They have to, whatever it is, they are doomed into that dream because it's my dream. So because I created the dream, I can end it. And so I would not be able to destroy this tree of creation if I had not created it. And so I am that spirit which created it and forgot that it's a spirit. Just like I create the dream world, sometimes I see myself in my dream. But I don't remember when I see myself, it's really I created it. I just think I'm a part of the dream world. I don't remember that I created it. It's that way. Okay, so we stop here today, and then when we meet next week, we will begin with verse number 3. Om Jananim Saratam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. We bow down to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother again and again. This Sunday satsang, the subject will be the language of paradox in Advaita Vedanta. We have a guest speaker, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who is the assistant minister at the Vedanta Society in Southern California in Hollywood. He will be with us and he will speak on the subject. So you're welcome for the satsang on Sunday. Next Wednesday evening, we will continue with the study of the 15th chapter of the Gita. And on Tuesday and Saturday, our Arati and meditation will also continue as usual. Let's conclude with a prayer now on page 3. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.